And welcome to Sports by Compion. My name, of course, is Stephen Compion, and I'm joined here by a very special guest who's kicking off an Austin segment for us called Miss Midwestern Rugby. Me and Dan are going to go over some possible names for that. But in the meantime, that is what we're calling it. The growth of Midwest Rugby, and we are joined here by Steve Vitus from the Fox Valley Gargoyles up in Appleton. Steve, how are you today, sir?
I'm exhausted, but I'm hanging in there. How you doing, Steve?
Oh, just living the dream, man. Glad you could come on here. Always excellent to have a fellow Steve. In fact, you are the first fellow Steven to join the pod. How about that? I just realizing that right now. Isn't that truly amazing? History being made, even.
I'll take that honor. I'll put it on my shelf, Steve.
And you and your beard are representing well. We're happy to have you on. It's great to have this. A little history for the fans. I believe we've actually mentioned the Gargoyles on this podcast before because we have a lengthy history with them. We got to meet these guys last spring. Went up there and they were graceful enough to host us afterwards and go out with us on the town and show us the Appleton nightlife, which was awesome. You know, a good time. We got to hang out with them there. Proceeded to stay in contact throughout the summer during different sevens tournaments. Got to play with them a couple times, play against them. After maybe a questionable spring, they went on to have an amazing fall. Can you tell us a little bit about that one, Steve?
Um, Honestly, it came just as a surprise as it did to everybody else. Honestly, there's been no shortage of years that we've faced just absolute thrashings and rough seasons, and then we did what every basic team sets out to do, is just like get to your roots, work on your fundamentals, get your conditioning to where you actually want it to be, and then we just went into every match with like a junkyard dog mentality, and that was we went into every match with everyone that we were playing was supposed to be better than us. Like everyone looked down on us. Everyone has looked down on us. So it was good for us to finally get a group of guys that all in unison wanted to show what we could actually do. And so we came out with a junkyard dog mentality. Like once we got in your face, we bit and we didn't let go. And it served us well. And that a lot of fortunate recruits over the last couple of years and a lot of conditioning. Just one win after another, and honestly just put together a season from the fall that we didn't really expect. Um,
And those wins kind of help build the confidence to get more wins, right? That's
that's
kind of
that's what that's what we're hoping for. It got a lot of people excited, some old boys that we hadn't seen from in a while that finally started coming around again, and hopefully get the rugby culture in Appleton fired back up a little bit.
absolutely love to hear about it. I've always said that the Gargoyles are somewhat of an underrated team. I feel like you guys got piles of talent over there. Steve is actually their number 8 slash flanker sometimes. Is that right, or both just number 8?
Anywhere in the pack you really need me, but primarily, yeah, eight and flank is where they stick me most often.
8 and flank, and they got a new number 6 who's played a fantastic game against us. Showed out in Tennessee as well. Ryan Peters, of course, has been there for a couple of years, playing some great rugby. We just got to experience the DT train just this past sevens tournament, but that's another good player, very shifty. Usually scrum half for you guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, of course, the number 15, who I don't know if you guys had him last spring, but I hear he's basically your guys' main offense. Dude played an amazing game against us, so I imagine he balled out during the fall for you, too.
Absolutely. Kruk is an amazing player, and he just had his second kid, so his attendance is ebbs and flows, which we all understand. We all go through it, so we're just happy to have him when he comes around. But yeah, he knows how to slot in on offense when we need it, and clearly can put on the wheels when the work needs to be done. And there's enough that can be said about when someone's on a breakaway and you can trust that Crucky's going to be there to just clean it up to make sure that no one gets an easy try. Like they got to work for it.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, it gives your forwards a chance to get back on defense and give yourself a chance to stop that ball. Not even getting back to Ryan Peters. I remember that game we played against you guys in the spring. Like, the guy's just experienced in rugby. He knows how to attack on offense. He knows where to move around his team to give you guys a good opportunity, and has some good kicks on him too.
Peters is definitely a weapon when he's got his confidence up. I give him a lot of grief for it, but that boy is talented. He can move the ball when he wants to, and he knows the game, and he has good rapport with the guys. So it's honestly great to have him around as well. He's a good leader, and honestly, I just look forward to what the Gargoyles will look like down the road when we found our stride. You know, when we've got a few years of this core group under our belt, and we can build off of it instead of trying to refresh every year.
Absolutely. How big do you think this actual core group of guys is right now?
Honestly, it's really hard to say because like our team is just like every other rugby meme that you see, where like the first game of the year you've got 40 guys,
Right,
by
of course.
the end of the year you've got you just 17.
Yep.
Um,
That is absolutely rugby. Well, especially at this level.
but I'd say if I were to really realistically give a number, 18 to 22.
That's a
But
really solid core. 18 to 22 is a solid core. If you get that core to show up to everything, you guys are going to be in great shape.
it's been a few years since we've been in a position where we were worried about actually having numbers for a match. Um, but it would be nice to have like almost two full sides. I'm not getting any younger, so like playing
Same.
the full 80 minutes is starting to become tough, and we need to have another set of guys for when when the time comes to hang it up and give it up to the next guy. So we got to get some, I guess, how do you phrase it? Some animals. Got to get some
Yeah.
animals in here to replace us old boys when the time comes.
Yeah, and I think that's been a big thing for the Ravens too, is not just getting new people, but people who actually are good. You know what I mean? Like actually getting good rookies, and then you can just continue to develop them from there. That's really a blessing from the gods because actually being able to find an athlete who can actually play, and then you just got to teach them rugby. Like that's so much easier than trying to teach somebody how to be an athlete and then how to play rugby on top of that. You know?
That's kind of what I felt with that kid Cody that came with us
Oh yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
the tournament. Yeah, that was his first tournament, and he ended up scoring. I watched him like drive people in the
He was
ground. He
carrying the
was
ball super well.
yeah,
He had no fear of taking that ball into contact.
no, he was getting into it. And that was actually really exciting that someone had their first day and they were having a day. And so that was good to see.
Absolutely. You know, I was going to ask you about that tournament. Every time I go to Lion Hunter, I'm almost reminded about how I'm actually not that good of a rugby player. Like, oh my God, the level of competition at that tournament is so high. I feel like maybe it's just like the best Wisconsin teams seem to be showing up there. Like that game we played against the Bar Bros, where that one dude just like cut and lost absolutely no speed and just cut across me and Mike and proceeded to beat Mike to the corner for the try. And it's like looking back, I wish I would have tried to react and at least tried to jump out in front of him. I mean, I had the speed to maybe make that happen, but I think I was so tired and just amazed at how this guy was losing no speed with the way he was cutting because he cuts, leaves the one dude in dust and just blows past. I was just amazed. And you know, it's kind of like almost a wake up call to be like, "Fuck, dude, you can work as hard and as long as you want at this, but like some guys just have a different level, and there's just not much you can do about it."
There's a guy that plays for Milwaukee. His name is Kevin Schmidt, and that boy is speed incarnate. And we actually had a tournament in Wausau on the ice where it was like an ice and snow mix on the frozen lake, and
Yeah,
watching him
sounds
run on
terrible.
snow. Watching him run on snow, I'm like, I'm pretty sure he could run faster on snow than I can on grass. Like it's absurd. But
Milwaukee has a
honestly,
couple of them. They got that one really big boy who like is just crazy fast, and it doesn't make any sense for as big as he is.
the way as I see it, there's always going to be someone bigger, stronger, faster, smarter than us. And honestly, that's fine. And I came here to just, I don't know. You'll remember my name by the end. That's the goal. There
Fair
may be
enough.
people better than me, but you will remember who I am,
You're
and
not
that's my
wrong. I did remember you by the end of that for our first game. I'm like this guy with the big ass beard. He's all over the field. It's really annoying.
that was kind of what I've always just tried to embody, was just to be the boogeyman, like just to get in the backfield and cause havoc. That's all I really want to do.
Yeah, there's something beautiful about being in the backfield and causing havoc. And you hear people getting nervous. They hear your footsteps and they fumble the ball or something. It's a good
Yeah.
feeling. It's
The
a
amount
good
of times that I haven't actually tried to actively pick up the ball, but rather I just like start dribbling around with my feet and giggle
feeling.
as I'm just like killing time for everyone else to reset. Like I don't know, weird old gargoyle stuff that we picked up over the years, just like small things to pick up time when you need it to.
Yeah, it's important being able to buy time when you need to. We had a nice little pass off during one of our games. I think it was the Bar Bros. Maybe it was our second one. You came around the corner there, popped it off to you. Unfortunately, they were just really good on defense, so they were right on you. We didn't make much on it, but we looked really cool making these moves out there, Steve. Some
They
good pass
they
offs, I think.
there were some highs and lows to that game. There was, I think that was the game where I got stiff armed straight up for a try. Like that just feels bad.
It's never a good feeling. That is not a fun
Any way you
feeling.
look at it, you're just like, I'm gonna be the hero. Now I'm just gonna be his
Now I'm
bitch.
in the ground. Don't mind me. Guess I'm not going to tackle you. Hey, but when was the Gargoyles established as a club?
Um, I believe it was 1972, if I remember correctly.
No way. You guys are older than the Ravens then.
I believe so. I believe our 40 year was it 80? Might have been 82. Our 40 year. Oh boy, if the old boys are hearing this podcast, they're gonna light me up.
We should definitely put it on your website so they can. Speaking
Oh
of
fuck.
your old boys, are they still pretty involved with your club and such, or like you see how the
Um,
Ravens old boys are?
so the old boys, they come around for our banquets and things of that nature, from time to time.
That's definitely where
Um,
we see the most of our old boys too, but we definitely have a lot still involved.
our 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 practices, we don't see them terribly often.
Nobody goes to our practice.
Every now and again you'll see them, but primarily now our old boys, or at least our youth program is operated by our old boys.
Oh, nice. You guys have a
Like
youth program?
we do. We started up within the last 5 years, and once rugby had started shutting down in the valley, we couldn't get kids into these programs because football coaches would tell their boys that they couldn't play football if they played rugby, and we started dying out here. So the youth program started firing up with a passion, and we built a youth program under the guise of one of our old high school teams. In fact, my old high school team, the Little Street Black Knights. And since then, they've started a flag program with multiple age brackets, anywhere from 6 years old to.
You say flag, so this is flag rugby?
Yep, this is flag rugby. So this was
Never
anywhere
heard of it. Why
from.
don't they just play touch?
Oh, they have a good system for it. Like
Sorry, no.
it keeps the game flowing for the kids at least. They seem to understand it and grasp it, and I don't know. I guess it's a good question why it's not just touch, but it
Well, I
it
mean, if they
seems
got
to
it
work.
going, that's the important part.
Yeah, they got it going,
That's awesome.
and yeah, anywhere from like 6 to like just before high school. And the cool part is they just got into the YMCA programs in the valley, which is
Nice.
pretty cool. Because the Y has nothing for rugby because nobody knows about rugby. So they basically went in and they were like, we have a program, we have a curriculum, we have coaches, we have everything you need. We just need bodies, and we just need kids to be in our program. And the Y was all for it. And so they even offered to sponsor jerseys, and so hopefully we'll have another 30 kids by next year. And our long-term goal and the goal of the old boys was to start building from a young age. So
Yeah.
you get kids to develop a love for rugby at a young age,
Of course.
so that when it comes time for high school, they have that love for rugby, so they'll want to do it, and they won't be afraid when a coach tells them no. And then down the road, they'll remember the Gargoyles, the ones that taught them when they were a kid.
Right.
And
So they decide to stay in the city. They know there's somewhere they can play rugby.
yeah, some of them hopefully will come back home, and then we can have bodies in the future. So hopefully it'll be like a one hand washes the other type thing.
It's exactly why I've been pushing to establish the high school programs here in Rockford. We're definitely behind the eight ball on the whole thing, but it is something we had before, went away, produced a lot of the core players we have now. And it's one of those things. It takes a lot of work, but definitely worth the reward. Like All Taylor, John. Well, no, not John, but Skip, Ren. All those people played in high school. So it's like there's definitely tons of benefits to doing that. Not only are you helping U.S. rugby grow as a sport, which I imagine our boy Rizzo. Shout out to Badger coverage. I'm sure he's all over that high school program, right?
Yeah, he covers a lot of high school programs actually, between Appleton, Green Bay. Like Rizzo's a popular guy throughout Wisconsin. He's all over.
Good for him. That's cool. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I was just saying it's really cool what you guys have built there, and that's something. Keep it going, keep working on it, because then you are going to start getting that trickle down effect to the guys coming back to college, or maybe the guys who decide they don't want to go to college, and they're like, I'm just going to stay in Appleton. Bam! Now they know they got a rugby team they can play for.
We're just trying to build something nowadays. It used to be where the Gargoyles, you showed up, you played your 15th season, and then you went home. You did some tournaments in the spring, and that was it. There was no, there was the banquet, but other than that, there was really nothing. There was no bonding time. There was not much of anything for a good number of years. So we were trying to like get our fundraisers up so we can do more tournaments, and B, just try to hang out with each other more often.
It builds that team chemistry. That's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I know just from my own experience, when we moved into this house, which was 5 years ago, we had to move Kaylee out of her apartment, and she was living next to a drug dealer with two kids. So I texted the guys once we got in this place. I'm like, "Can you help me? We got to get her out." And no hesitation, within 20 minutes, I had 4 gargoyles at her front door, and it was one of them was Dictus on his birthday.
Nice.
Good old Dictus. Everyone just started grabbing stuff, and then we had all of her stuff out in here in 40 minutes.
Beautiful. That is we've definitely done that for a lot of our teammates too, and man, it's really special to be able to have that kind of team friendship and just stuff going on outside of not just the rugby. It helps build it and it keeps people around. I can say for myself, like I would not have stayed in Rockford if I wouldn't have formed the good friendships I did with these guys.
It's kind of how I feel about the Fox Cities areas. There's a lot of reason I stayed around is because of the Gargoyles. Like I can't imagine leaving that home, honestly.
I deeply considered it, Steve. Me and you, I think we talked last year. I was deeply considering ending it. But at the end of the day, I did not, and I'm glad I didn't because the Ravens are a very special club, and I'm sure you feel the same way about the Gargoyles. It's really cool to be able to find a team that gets you, and a team that you can really rally behind and feel good about. It's definitely one of my passions in life. It's cool to run across people like yourself that I believe it's the same thing for you, right?
Honestly, rugby is just a place that for people that don't have a home. And I was in high school. I was the only senior to not start, and I saw 5 minutes of varsity play. And my junior, sophomore, freshman years, they were no better. They played me down to JV as a junior, and I led the team in sacks, tackles for a loss. I was the kicker, the punter. I was an offensive lineman. I was on the kick return team. I was everywhere. But then came senior year, there was nothing for me. Why? Because I played rugby. They had it out for me because like I was missing some summer lifting practice, summer lifts because I was doing rugby stuff.
Dude, the jealousy is so weird to me about these football coaches. Like, are you guys that worried about losing certain players? And also, like, don't you know this is way helping their cardio? Like, come on now.
It's just the stigma that it's some weird European thing, so everyone's just got to get on their, high horse about it and be like, no, it's weird and different. We can't have it. It's not American football. That's what we do.
You're not wrong. This podcast, we love both. Obviously, we are obviously cover football a ton on this podcast too. But yeah, it is kind of just crazy, like how protective football coaches are sometimes over their players and such. Because yeah, I mean, there's plenty of rooms for both. Come on now, you don't have to be that crazy about it.
I mean, I did both. Granted, like they didn't play me, but I could have played, and
Good athletes can do
and
both easily. Double
and
sport
like
athletes are a total thing nowadays.
and like if kid's playing a full 80 minutes of rugby, clearly his cardio is doing pretty good. I mean,
Could probably handle 20 minutes of football because that's going to be really what 5 minutes of football. Like what you actually are doing, running around.
and exactly, and it teaches kids like, or at least I shouldn't say it teaches, but like you get tackling practice consistently
Yeah.
because like that's all you're really doing is tackling and tackling and tackling.
Like there's way more tackles you have to make in rugby. Like it's crazy. And like as a ex football player, or if you're just willing to work hard out there, like you can make double-digit tackles pretty easily in a game.
Like you remember like in football when like if you're on like D line, you had to just like hope that every now and again someone would come your way and that
Exactly,
the
especially
situation
defensive
would
end.
arise
You're
for
like,
you to be there.
right.
And and that's just assuming that things are going to go your way and someone didn't get like the perfect blocking assignment on you. But in rugby, you're consistently like there's
Working.
just because of the consistent movement, you're going to get the practice you need to have these skills, and it just blows my mind that we have to be so close-minded about it.
I don't know if it's every football coach. I want to think. I hope that that's not the case as I start to reach out to these Rockford schools. But I really hope that some of these football coaches realize the importance of it. I mean, I think one back in the day we got a kid came out. He was like 14. He's like, yeah, my coach told me to come out here and do my cardio in the spring with you guys. I'm like, you have a smart coach, sir.
If you go out to the high schools, my advice to you would be have your information on concussion facts handy,
Okay.
because that will be probably their number one. Is like, oh no, helmet concussions. Well, actually, we teach our kids how to tackle properly, and football teaches kids how to jump like missiles.
Interesting. Any other suggestions you might have for anyone out there, maybe looking to grow a high school program in whatever town they happen to be in?
I mean, I can't say I'm an expert by any means, but I know from what we've tried, um, uh, they have an issue with concussions. They have an issue with injuries, and they have an issue with just not understanding it and it being a foreign concept. They I lost my train of thought.
No, but that makes sense. Basically, is they don't know what it is and they don't want to let it in because they're afraid of new things, which is basically the problem with a lot of new things that could be helping people.
And there's a stigma that rugby is this super destructive, aggressive sport, and like you and I both know that like yeah, it is. It does have
To a
its
degree.
moments where it can be pretty hairy at times, but it's not like we're coming out with our limbs falling off.
No, and for the
And
most part, it is safer than football. Like anyone who wants to say that and then like still, say football is safer because they're wearing pads, like you haven't been on a football field.
the way it was explained to me at one point was that in football, when you hit someone, like you've got all that padding on, you've got all your thigh pads, your shoulder pads, everything's just like locking you into place. And when you take that hit, your body takes the brunt of the hit. Where at least in rugby, you have the opportunity to let your body, essentially ragdoll into the hit. You
And
don't
that
have to, you don't have to brunt it, but more just like flex into it.
And there's absolutely something to that. In judo, the first I took some judo classes in community college. No expert. Okay, I took like maybe double digit, like 10 or 12 classes. Anyway, first couple classes they were just like teaching us how to fall. Because they're like, if you can teach your body how to fall, and you're not going to get injured, you're not going to hurt yourself when you're falling, getting thrown around, because you'll know how to fall. And that was a big thing because if like you were tensing up or not falling correctly, then it hurt a lot more. Whereas if you learned how to fall correctly, like you didn't feel shit. So it kind of makes sense with what you're saying about rugby. Like the way your pads are, it's hard to get your body into a correct position to really absorb that contact correctly.
Absolutely, and like the prior the prior point, um, with padding on, you feel indestructible. You feel
Yeah.
like nothing can hurt you. So what do? You throw your corpse at someone and you hope for the best, and
Yep.
like that's how you end up with like the major injuries you see in football, is because everyone's just going for the big stick.
Sure.
Because you have all that padding on, it's not really going to be doing your bones any damage, but you're going to have that loud pop. You're going to have the dramatic effect. Everyone's going to get their rocks off because they heard the big pow.
Of course.
But like, but for what? Did anyone like have any proper technique? No, they're just throwing limbs. In rugby, like in rugby, you know that you have to make an attempt to rep. You have to try to tackle someone. There has to be some level of skill in what you're doing, not just, trying to be the next.
What's a good example of like the extra safety precautions that take in rugby is how giving that ref is with the red card. So we just covered MLR Chicago Hounds win their last game of the season, but they get 7 cards by this. That was 4 yellows and 3 reds. This ref was just handing them out like candy. And taking it back to even this last weekend, with our young Sir Bryce out there catching the guy in midair by the feet and just like led into an immediate red card from the ref. I bet that's a legal tackle in football. You know what I mean? There was no part of that was illegal. He grabbed his legs. It would have been totally illegal in football, but that is dangerous play. So it's kind of crazy that in one sport it's absolutely a red, and in another sport they're like, yeah, anyway.
And among other rules, like such as high tackling, there's issues with you'll get carded for like ripping people by their hair.
Yep.
Depending on the sir, they'll have issues with horse collaring. A lot of things in rugby have been geared towards making sure the players are staying safe while we're doing what we're doing.
Yep.
In fact, it even got to the point where like scrums even got watered down from what they used to be. Like, I wish scrums were still a little bit the old way. Crouch, touch, pause, engage.
I don't even know what that means. What does that mean?
Oh, that was the old cadence years ago. Instead of crouch mindset, it was crouch, touch, pause, engage.
So crouch, pause.
So you crouch, you'd sink down on your locks. Touch, you'd reach over, you'd bind onto the other scrum. Pause was just a pause, and then on engage, back then you could ram it.
Wow.
And that's what we did, and those were the glory days of scrums, man.
Those do sound pretty fun, actually.
Those were back when I was 250
and prop, though.
I was 250 pounds. I was a loose head.
So you were made for it then.
I had a blast.
Good old just slamming into people. It sounds like a fun time, actually.
And just learning all the little gargoyle old boy tricks over the years to execute better scrums. The quiet ones we don't talk about.
Fair enough. Let's not expose them out here. Just to go ahead and wrap this up, Steve, what do you think about this Gargoyles outlook for the fall season? This is the stuff that actually matters. Are you excited? Do you got good numbers? Do you think you're going to make some noise out there again?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to the season. I'm a little bit nervous because obviously now we've got everyone's attention from what we accomplished last year. So it's gonna be definitely a tougher season than it was last year, but I'm looking forward to what we can put together. We have some more fresh blood than we did last year, so hopefully we can even have some new tricks up our sleeve down the road. I can't really say for sure how we're gonna do, but we're just gonna keep the junkyard dog mentality and
love it.
Just keep riding it.
Hey, just play within yourselves. Do the usual gargoyle stuff. You guys will be fine. It's gonna be a fun season.
For sure.
Appreciate you coming on. You're welcome back anytime, sir. Sports by Compion.